The first one comes from Mutasim. He quotes, Dominique had become an ideal wife. She devoted herself completely to Peter Keating's interests, pleasing his clients, entertaining his friends, running his home, and so on. When he expressed his views on any subject, she did not argue, rather, she agreed with him. So, the questions are, Pranam Acharya ji, what exactly does Dominique wish to understand through her marriage with Peter? How will this kind of devotion to Peter help her in understanding what she wishes to understand? And then, in continuation of this, why was Peter Keating not worthy enough to remain Dominique's husband? What exactly does Dominique wish to understand through her marriage with Peter? How will this kind of devotion to Peter help her in understanding what she wishes to understand? Dominique respects greatness. However, she thinks of greatness, perfection, excellence in relation to the world. She does not yet realize that perfection and the world neither go together, nor do they not go together. Basically, they are different dimensions. Her insistence is to see perfection in the world. Her insistence is upon a world so perfect that it respects perfection. Her childlike question is, if there is greatness, why must pettiness exist at all? She cannot see these two coexistent. And she is right in her way. If the real thing is actually real, why must it coexist with the false? So she takes her position. She says, if the real is real, it has no business, no obligation coexisting with the false. The false must go. The real is incompatible with the false, so the false must go. But the false is big, pretty big, encompassing the entire world, the masses of men, their culture, their civilization, their minds, their thoughts, their patterns, their conditioning. That's a huge bulk. That's a huge bulk that Dominique does not really want to exist. You get her contention? She says, if the real is actually real, why must the false exist at all? Had it been in her sway, she would have just wished or ordered all falseness into disappearance. But she cannot do that. It's outside the province of any person's limited powers. She sees that ignorance exists, littleness exists. Man's insistence on his ugliness exists. Man's defense of mediocrity stubbornly refuses to go. And she pleads. She wants it to all just vaporize. It does not. So what does she say? She says, now, the true and the false have no business coexisting, and the false is refusing to go. The true and the false cannot coexist. And the false says, I will definitely exist. Hence, her conclusion is that, okay, I'll repeat. What she says is, it is a felony that right by the side of truth, falseness should exist. That a great man should walk surrounded by dwarfs. That a great building should be surrounded by testimonies of human impotency. She says this is just not acceptable. The tall one walking amongst dwarfs. What business do dwarfs have being in his company, claiming his company? What business does a great building have in the middle of a city dominated by ugly instances of man's deformed spirit? These two cannot go together. And if the dwarfs insist that they are very powerful and very pervasive, then her step is to take the true away. False should go away, ideally. But if the false is not going away, I'll take away the true. In any case, I cannot allow the two of them to coexist. That's her stand. These two must not coexist. That's unbearable. It just wrenches her spirit to see these two coexist. In a party, I think one of Kiki Holcomb's parties, one fellow comes over to Rourke, drooling, fawning, probably trying to shake hands, expressing admiration. And Dominique is watching. She says, no, Rourke, no. She doesn't explicitly express that in words, but that's what she says. She says, no, Rourke, no, you have no business letting that man come to you. Right now, he is expressing admiration for your work. And I have seen this idiot express admiration for a third-rate movie as well. No. You have no business being in his company. It is bad enough that pettiness exists, and it is far worse if pettiness exists right next to greatness. She says pettiness has all the rights to exist. Let it exist in its own ecosystem. And she says, fine. I'll take it as some whim of physical nature. After all, madmen too exist, don't they? Even animals go mad. Prakriti does indulge in these things. So it's all right. That can be accepted, tolerated. All kinds of rubbish, nonsense, ugliness, all that exists in the natural physical world. Let it exist. Deserts exist. Jungles exist. And you might have a very romantic notion of a jungle. But if you go to an actual jungle, you might not find it so romantic. It's infested with mosquitoes and all kinds of little insects insistent on feeding upon you. And you can't even walk properly. There are spider webs ready to claim your face. And you don't know where to put your foot next. There are rotting leaves all around. And as you put your feet over them and there is a rustle, along with the rustle arises a putrefied smell, especially if it's the rainy season. So all kinds of uglinesses do exist in physical nature and they have a right to exist. What Dominique cannot bear is how can a colony of madmen have a sage in between them. That is what really makes her tremble. She says madmen do have a right to exist, and that's okay. Things exist in nature, in Prakriti. So men without brains, men without souls, do have right to exist. It's all right. But why do they coexist with a sage in middle of them? And she sees that she cannot stop the madman from existing. So she says, all right, I'll stop the sage from existing. That's her way of expressing love towards the sage. She tells the sage, I love you so much, I cannot see you in the middle of all these people. I will snatch you away from them. If I let you be in the middle of them, then I know you. You don't hate them. You don't want to go away from them. You have a very compassionate indifference towards them. And in fact, you can have no compassion if you're not indifferent. If you are related, if you are attached, you can at most have pity. Compassion definitely requires a certain indifference, a detachment. The sage has that. And because he has indifference, therefore he will feel no need to get away from the world. He is secured. He is world-proof. The world cannot affect him, so he feels no need to run away from the world. Dominique is yet not there. Dominique's principle is the sage and the world must not coexist. The sage deserves to be in the company of sages alone. The sage is an emperor. And emperors deserve to be in their palaces. What is an emperor doing in a madhouse? That's the question she asks. But that is not the question that the emperor asks. The emperor says, my kingdom is within me. So I'm not feeling offended being in the company of even mediocre souls. Further, if I'm not in the middle of them, it's a two-way loss. One, I'm acknowledging that their presence hurts me. Second, if I take myself away from them, who will heal them? Though that is not his primary motive, please understand. Actually, he is motiveless. He just exists motivelessly. Only then can there be compassion. Compassion can never be purposeful. Compassion has to be motiveless. We will not appreciate that very quickly or very spontaneously because we are used to purposeful pity or consideration or regards or help. Whenever help is purposeful, it is an expression of the little ego. You are almost gloating over the other's degraded state. In helping him, in some way you are considering yourself superior to them. And you are feeling lucky that you could come upon somebody inferior to you. And your relationship with someone inferior to you allows you some kind of pride in your own state. The sage, the saint, who is the real individual, therefore has no aversion for the world. You see, he is, I said, the real individual, so he cannot be affected. Who is an individual who cannot be affected? You cannot take away a part of him. He is indivisible. That is real individualism, right? To be somebody who cannot be touched, who cannot be destroyed, who cannot be made to chop off a part of him, who is just one. And that is also called integrity, or wholeness, or totality, or completeness, or purnata. A part of you just cannot be taken away. You do not exist in parts at all. All parts of you are one. So therefore, there are no parts at all. You are in one solid, single whole. So the saint is not afraid. He says, I am the individual, real individual. Not an individual who follows the ideal of individualism. These are two different things, please understand. An idea is always partial because it exists only at the mental level. So if you are a follower of the ideology called individualism, you cannot be an individual. Do you get these two things apart from each other? A follower of the ideology called individualism is not an individual at all. Because to follow an ideology, first of all, there has to be a division between you and the ideology. There is you and there is the ideology, and you decide to follow the ideology. Now, division has been created at the starting point itself. Where is indivisibility? An individual is one who follows no ideology. He just is. In Vedantic parlance, he will say, he is whole, he is Atma. He has no ideology. He lives by the dictate of his central luminous point. In the language of devotion, bhakti, you will say, he is the one who has only one God, only one Lord, only one to obey. He is the individual. So he never faces any crisis or dilemmas because he does not have two to obey or two to get confused within. Confusion is only when there is an order from here and order from there, and you do not know which one to follow. The individual is the one who accepts order only from one place. You can call it his heart, you can call it his pure soul, you can call it his Atma, or you can call it his great Lord sitting in the skies. Depends on how you want to word it. So you see the difference between how the sage is and how Dominique conceives a sage should be. There is a difference there. And that is why Dominique has to take a long path. In spite of Rourke sitting in her heart throughout the course of the story, externally she is able to reach Rourke only after taking a pretty convoluted route. So go to Peter Keating, then divorce, then go to Gayle Wynand, again divorce, then reach Rourke. This is all happening on the surface. Oh, such a long journey she has to make. Within, she belongs to Rourke even before Peter Keating is able to touch her. Even in a physical sense, we know that. Rourke was the first one she allowed within her physical self as well. But then, because her understanding is not yet full, so she has to go through a painful process. In spite of Rourke sitting in her heart, she has to marry Keating. And imagine the torture. It's like somebody being put on the rack. That is easy because that ends the game very soon. It's the Chinese torture in which slowly drops keep falling on your forehead. There is nothing immediate. You don't end in one blow of the axe. You don't even end in an hour of sustained suffering. You are allowed to continue, and you are allowed to continue for long, but you are allowed to continue as one unsettled and chained being. That is the kind of torture she faces with Keating as his wife. But she has to bear the torture. Why? Because her understanding of what fullness or totality really means is not yet complete. She has to undertake the journey just to complete that learning. Not that she is purposefully doing the right things to complete her learning. It's just that when your journey is not complete, you have to go through suffering. But if your intention is proper, then in the process of suffering, you will learn. And if your intention is not proper, then you will not learn despite suffering. You get it? If your understanding is not full, then it is inevitable that you will have to pass through suffering. But even while passing through suffering, it is in no way certain that you will learn. Most people suffer but never learn. Suffering is at most an opportunity to learn. The great thing about Dominique is she learns. But if, Mutasim, you are asking that she has purposefully married Peter Keating in order to learn, no, that she has not done. The great thing would have been for her, obviously, to not marry Keating. But being Dominique, she could not have not married Keating. It was to happen. She is just too concerned with the world. She not only wants trueness to exist, she also wants trueness to be respected by the world. Now, if you want trueness to exist, that is all right. It's wonderful. But if you start demanding that trueness must also be understood and respected by the world, you are demanding too much. In fact, in some sense, you are insulting trueness. Though your claim is that you worship trueness, right? You claim that you worship trueness, so you want the world to worship it as well. But by mentioning trueness in the same breath as the world, you have actually pulled trueness down. You are saying trueness is so great. It must have the admiration of the world. Why do you mention these two together? If trueness is there, be concerned with trueness. Why do you think and talk so much of the world? But Dominique does. She cannot think of Rourke without thinking of all the ordinary men and the common man on the street. She thinks of Rourke and then she thinks of the average mediocre man. And that kills her. She says, Rourke, you have no business existing in this city. Look at that man. He is spitting on the stairways. Look at that woman. In the great house that you built, she is hanging diapers. Now, did you build your great house for that woman to hang her diapers? That's what makes her revolt. She says, no. If that woman is going to hang diapers in the house that you build, then it is better that you do not build any house. I will not allow you to get any commissions. Whenever a commission would be coming your way, I'll intercept it. And that's what she does, right? She steals so many potential clients away from Rourke and hands them over to Keating. She says, these clients, do they deserve to touch my Rourke? No, they don't. So I'll not allow them to go to Rourke. They deserve to be with Keating. You go to Keating. She's a child woman. And in some way, Rourke treats her that way. She's yet to mature. She's on a journey. How dare, what was the name of the fellow? Stutton or something? Huh? Stutton, right? How dare the Stutton fellow come and stand in front of Rourke? She says, you know, giving commission to Rourke would be a work of heroism, Stutton, and you do not have the figure for that. So you better go to Keating. See, that's the way she's expressing her greatest tribute. And when they drag Rourke to court, she says, now you see why I didn't want you to have contact with them. Why I didn't want you to work with them? Because if you work with them, this is what they will do to you. So in some sense, I saved you from them by not letting you land those commissions. Didn't you build a temple for Stoddard? Didn't you? You did. And what did Stoddard do to that temple? He disfigured it. He defiled it. He didn't even completely demolish it. He raped it. So that's Dominique's argument. You built one temple and see what they did to your work. First of all, they defiled your work. Secondly, they dragged you to court. Thirdly, they hurled abuses at you. And fourthly, they made you pay up for the entire dirty job. Not only was the temple desecrated, Rourke was asked to pay the money for its desecration. Dominique says, this is exactly why I do not want you to get any work. Whenever you will get work, Rourke, you will do it your way. And whenever you will do it your way, they will not allow you to live or survive. And I love you so much, Rourke, I cannot see you being dragged to their courts. And it is certain that if you allow them your company, if you allow them to have an agreement with you, an architect's agreement, they will most definitely spit over you. You do not belong to their world. You come from another dimension. You better live in your own dimension. Don't debase yourself by touching these stinking lots. Don't stoop to their level. Don't take their work. Let them live in their world. You do not belong to their world. Why do you want to come and build in their world? You go back to where you came from. You belong to some other planet. On this planet, if you will try to do something, I'll not allow you to do that, because if you do something, they will hurt you, they will kill you. You have no money. Not that money bothers you too much, but just as a fact, you have no money. And look at what the thing called Stoddard is doing to you. He's saying, pay me so that I can demolish your work. Rourke is being asked to pay up so that the temple can be demolished or modified and turned into some appendage of the Sikh society. So that's how Dominique's mind is operating. Is there clarity? How is the mind of Dominique different from that of Rourke? The world matters too much to Dominique. She wants respect and admiration from the world, and she gets hurt when it doesn't come. Not for herself, but for greatness. She's not someone who would nurse her own petty vanity. But she wants admiration where it must belong. So when she looks at a rock, she says, this is where respect and admiration belongs, and it must come there. And when she doesn't see it coming there, she's badly hurt. Badly hurt. Her chief grudge is, how dare Rourke exist in the middle of these specimens who needlessly call themselves as men and women. To her, Rourke is the only human being who deserves to be called human. Others are all underdeveloped, unexpressed, underexpressed. Caricatures of some sort. Rourke says, I am not in the world to impress the world. Dominique says, but the world owes it to you to be impressed by you. That's the difference in the being of the two. Rourke says, I am all right even if they put me in jail. And when they put Rourke in jail, Rourke is hardly perturbed. But Dominique and Gayle Wynand, they are badly shaken. Rourke says, it's all right. I am not in the world to claim respect from the world. What is then my relationship with the world? My relationship with the world is that I want to express myself here. He says, I need clients so that I can build. That's all that I need clients for. So it is not clients that I need to build. Building is my chief concern. Clients are just a medium. I need clients so that I can build. Otherwise, I do not need clients. Somehow, if it so happens that Rourke turns fortunate and he is able to build on his own without ever needing a client, do you think he will await a commission? No. Clients are just a necessity for him. When I say clients, I mean the world. The world is just a stage for him. A stage on which anything can happen and he has to respond spontaneously. His response is what matters to him, not the stage. The stage has its own dynamics. The world has its own principles on which it runs. Rourke is not interested in altering those principles. Rourke is interested in just expressing his true self. Call it the soul, the spirit, the heart, the essence, whatever. Do you see how the two perceive the world differently? What is the world? To Rourke, just a stage. I'm here to dance. I'm not here to gather adulation. I'm here to dance. I'm here to express myself. I'm not here to garner applause. Dominique, on the other hand, expects the world to recognize and felicitate greatness. She has an expectation from the world. And when you have expectations, you get hurt. Rourke has very little expectations, so he does not get hurt too much. There are occasions when you find him hit and hurt, but those occasions are few and far between. And even if he does get hurt, he recovers very swiftly. Dominique's wounds are deeper. And they don't recuperate too quickly. Get it? So, what is it that Dominique wishes to understand through her marriage with Peter? No, she doesn't wish to understand anything. You could call it a reaction. She has an ideology. And that ideology governs her actions and reactions. It is not a decision taken in pure consciousness. It is a reaction. It is a reaction arising out of hurt. Are you getting it? Kids do it very often, don't they? In their house. If you don't give them what they want, then they choose the worst that is available. Kids do it, teenagers do it. We all might have done it at some point. You want your best, your favorite meal to be cooked tonight. You don't get it. What do you then reactively do? You push the plate aside and you say, I will not eat at all. Dominique goes a step further. She says, if I cannot have my favorite dish, then I will eat the most unacceptable, forbidding, nerve-wrenching, nauseating thing possible. That's a reaction. Give me what I want to have and give it to me on my conditions. And if I cannot have what I want on my own conditions, then I will commit myself to the worst that can be had. In some way, it is her revenge upon the world. She tells Keating somewhere that, this is the biggest humiliation I could have heaped upon you, our marriage. I humiliate you by marrying you because you know very well that you don't deserve this marriage. By being next to you, by sleeping next to you, I will remind you every day of your worthlessness. You are the one who stood in the court and testified against Rourke, right, Peter Keating? You are the one. Now, I'll have my revenge. So I'll be totally unresponsive in the bed. I won't even resent you. I won't even resist. I'll just be cold. That's my way of telling you of the solidness and height of your masculinity. Whatever you do will not be able to elicit any sensation, any response from me. My body will lie like a corpse a naked corpse next to you on the bed. Keating says, don't think that I'm going to trouble you too often in sexual matters. She says, as often or as seldom as you wish, Peter. That's my way of insulting you. I will not allow you to touch my soul. The body, you can have it as frequently or as seldom as you wish. I will neither cooperate nor resist. Do you see how she is operating? That is the reason Rourke does not stop her. Having wed Keating, she goes to Rourke that very night. On the night of her wedding, she goes to Rourke and shares the bed with him. That's a great way to offer respect to your husband. No? And then for the first time, she says, I love you. In the next sentence is, I have married Peter Keating. And Rourke says, if this moment I ask you to annul that marriage and be my wife, would you do it? Dominique says, yes. Rourke says, that is why I'll not say that. Because whatsoever you are doing as a reaction to others. The world hurts you so much, you go and marry Peter. If I asked you to marry me, you will obey me. No. I'll wait for your own soul to develop. I'll wait for the day when the world ceases to matter so much to you. I very well know that you can drop Keating in a second. Any day I ask for you, you will be there, available for me. But I'll not ask for you. I'll wait for many, many years. And he says that. He says, I know I'll have to wait for many years. It's going to be a long haul. But I'm ready. Come to me as what I am. Come to me as my equal. Do not come to me as somebody bleeding from the wounds inflicted by the world. I do not want our relationship to include the world. It has to be you and me. You, me, and our naked sincerity towards each other. You, me, and our absolute integrity. That absolute integrity is also called by the devotees, the saints, as God. Right now there are four. There is Rourke, there is Dominique. Surely there is godliness as well in their relationship. But there is a fourth presence as well, that of the world. Rourke says no. The fourth one has to be expunged. And I'll wait, Dominique, till you eliminate the world from your mind. When the world is gone, then you come to me, then it will be just the two of us in purity. So he lets her go. It takes very long. It takes, I suppose, in chronological terms, probably a decade for them to unite. And in between, Rourke very well knows that she is the wife of person X or person Y. Do you see how the whole thing is conceptualized and shaped up? Yeah. Now Mutasim has asked a very innocent question. He says, why was Peter Keating not worthy enough to remain Dominique's husband? I will leave it to you, Mutasim. Figure it out. If you don't figure it out, you might find that some Dominique comes over to you and asks you to wed her the very same night. That would be your punishment for not figuring out what's wrong with Peter Keating. Peter Keating is a sweet chap, is he not? It's just that he does not even know evil. At points, he is almost sincere. He thinks he is actually doing the right things. Sometimes he is actively evil. At other times, he does not even know that he is being snared by the evil. Being actively evil is not far worse than being unconsciously evil. The result is the same, Mutasim. So watch out. Ellsworth too, he knows greatness and opposes it. Peter Keating does not often even know what he is opposing. So what? In many ways, Keating is worse than Toohey. Toohey at least knows greatness. Keating does not even know greatness. Look at his outburst in the Stoddard trial. He genuinely, innocently blurts out, but what is wrong in trying to please people? What is wrong in being a regular fellow? What is wrong in being sociable? He does not really know. Your question belongs to that league, Mutasim. What's wrong in pleasing other people? Figure that out. Why was Peter Keating not worthy enough to remain Dominique's husband? Go through Keating's speech. Go through the portion where Keating is losing it. The attorney tells him, probably you are not well and probably you wish to be dismissed from the court. It is then that Keating regains his senses. He realizes that all are perceiving that he is drunk. It's a long rant he inflicts on the audience. And he's not posturing. He is genuinely ignorant. As ignorant as your question, Mutasim. But none of that augurs well. I repeat, even if ignorance is not purposeful, not deliberate, not conscious, ignorance still is ignorance. It is evil. And if it is evil, then you have to pay the price. So never come up and say, I made a mistake because I did not know that I was making a mistake. Hell, it is your responsibility to know. But that is our favorite excuse, is it not? I made a mistake because I did not know that I was making a mistake. Will God the Father know on your behalf what is a mistake and what is not. It is your own responsibility towards yourself to know. So there is nothing called a genuine mistake. Or you could say, even if it is a genuine mistake, it still meets the same punishment. That is what is wrong with Peter Keating. At several occasions, he could sense that there is something wrong with himself, with Guy Franken, with Ellsworth Toohey. And on those occasions, he preferred not to inquire, not to ask. You come across such instances severally. Almost half a dozen times, Peter Keating had the gut feel, the intuition that something is wrong somewhere. But he deliberately chose not to ask or inquire. It is your responsibility to inquire. And that is why Peter Keating is not good enough to be Dominique's husband. There are times when his evil is planned, as when he murders Lucius Hare. That was his name, right? The partner in the firm. Lucius Hare. So that's an instance of when he is actively evil. But there are several and far more instances when he is just subconsciously evil and he does not know. In fact, when Toohey would suggest to him that he is a partner in some kind of crime, he meaning Keating, Keating would innocently ask, "But we are doing a great job, aren't we? Hey, Toohey, what did you just say? Did you say crime? No. Are we criminals, really? Please explain." And Toohey would just smile at Keating's ignorance.